And more important, I think, in the legislature is finding out who's writing some of this stuff and then digging out and then finding out who their playmates are, because there's stuff that is just crazy going on. 911, you know, we had 911 and everybody wanted us all to be secure, and we get Homeland Security and the Patriot Act and all this other stuff. And yet our borders are open.
And so it's really a scam on the American people. But when you start to dig into it, you find that there are people in powerful positions that really don't want to secure those borders. And as we look into it, that's where this issue of the North American Union really starts to come up. What it is an agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the United States, essentially to form what they call the Security and Prosperity Partnership, SPP. If you want to find out about it, you can go to the government website, spp.gov, and what that translates into is the North American Union. In other words, drawing our borders, erasing our border with Mexico, erasing our border with Canada, and drawing a new line around what they're going to call the North American Union. And the plan is to have this accomplished by 2010. Laws with Canada and Mexico. They say the purpose of it is, and it's really being run through the Commerce Department, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is very much involved in promoting it, is to have free trade and to be able to not have people having to stop at the borders and all of this. But the real bottom line is, who will this help? It will help the corporations, the capitalists, just like sending all of our jobs overseas that they've already done. This will eliminate the American standard of living, the American middle class. And you can see some of the ways they're going to do that.
What American way of life?
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah,
that's
what
right.
Middle class?
That's right. The real problem is that this isn't happening in Congress. This isn't happening in the U.S. Senate. This is happening outside of all of that with a bunch of bureaucrats from Canada, Mexico, and the United States under the direction of the President of the United States, the President of Mexico, and the Premier of Canada as they work to integrate America without a treaty, outside the Constitution, outside the Congress, outside of our U.S. Senate.
I mean, I went to this flowery website, spp.gov, Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America. And then I read their dribble.
Now, I don't know lately if you've read the Constitution, but nowhere in the Constitution does it say anything about working groups or harmonizing or integrating our laws with foreign countries in a way that we would bypass the Congress of the United States. Of course, part of this, many of you may have heard, Dennis, is the NAFTA Superhighway.
Right.
Now, this NAFTA Superhighway, as it has been dubbed, is like 4 football fields wide. It has 10 lanes with corridors for utilities and gas, for trucks, for cars. It's going to start in Lázaro Cárdenas in Mexico, go through Texas. They call that part the Trans-Texas Corridor. There we're going to have a terrible problem with eminent domain. Millions and millions of acres of private property will be taken off the tax rolls and put into this Trans-Texas Corridor. It's going to stop in Kansas, where we're going to have an inland port, a Mexican port, so you can offload
Kansas
stuff.
City.
Yeah, in Kansas City.
Kansas City's a port, an international port.
It is, and what you're going to have, they have actually sovereign territory that will be Mexican in Kansas. They will bring the trucks up from Mexico without being inspected on Mexican trucks, which are substandard, and we won't know what's in those trucks. Who is going to benefit from this NAFTA highway?
Well, in reading this, and when we talked, I did start reading this, and then I'd get mad, and then I'd stop, and then I'd read it again, and then repeat the cycle. But China,
there's the answer.
China, I couldn't believe that's what kept emerging. China is benefiting from Kansas City becoming a port.
Of course, that's the objective of corporations. If they could pay everyone nothing, that would increase their bottom line. So this is what we have, is a situation which will ultimately benefit the distribution of Chinese goods in America while putting more Americans, truckers, longshoremen, all the people that are in America doing it now, putting them out of work. If Americans would contact their congressmen and contact their U.S. senators and say, this is outrageous. We are the United States of America. We are not interested in having a North American Union. We are not interested in the flowery words of security, prosperity, partnership. We believe in American sovereignty. This is a direct threat. We want you to stop this. Have an investigation, expose what's going on. That's what the American people need to do.
The authors of the North American Union, I wasn't surprised, I was again irritated severely, is the Council on Foreign Relations.
And that's very
Here
interesting.
they are
What
again.
we have essentially is a plan to benefit multinational corporations at the expense of the American people. I don't know that they support the North American Union. I would suspect that if most Americans really knew what was going to happen, that we would lose our sovereignty, that our laws were being harmonized by a bunch of bureaucrats behind closed doors, that they weren't ever planning to bring this before the U.S. Senate or the U.S. Congress, that they would oppose it. But they're clueless. They don't know what's happening, and they don't really have any way to find out because it's not in the national media.
They called it a bipartisan or nonpartisan bumper sticker. It said, "Run, Hillary, run." The Democrats put it on the back and the Republicans put it on the front.